Growing up as children, when we went to school, we learned about the name and meaning of Benedict Arnold. Well, now as Lions fans, we have a face to attach to that, and our former offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson, who has now decided to turn traitor. We're going to talk about it. Stay tuned.
What are we? What makes us what we are and what we're going to be? It's grit. It's what we started with last year, guys. Doesn't matter if you have one ass cheek and 3 toes. I will beat your ass.
Can definitely compete with the big dogs.
10-5 end zone touchdown Detroit Lions.
You guys are unbelievable, man. I'm telling you.
We are driven by Detroit.
Hello, Detroit Lions friends, fans, and family members. Welcome on back to yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. And with that, we're going to dive right on in because this is news that we absolutely cannot wait to talk about, as Ben Johnson has officially decided to turn traitor and has left the Detroit Lions to become the head coach of the Chicago Bears. It has been reported now by multiple different people, Tom Pelissero, Adam Schefter, Ian Rappaport. The Bears are going to sign Ben Johnson to become their new head coach. Now, having said that, let me say why I call Ben Johnson traitor. I knew that there was a good likelihood, an extreme likelihood, that Ben Johnson was going to become a head coach. I mean, the fact of the matter is everybody and their brother knew that chances were he was going to become a head coach this offseason. It had been long enough as far as him saying no to all these different jobs. And we had heard reports earlier that last year he was very interested in being the Bears head coach had they fired Matt Eberflus last year. But the funny thing about it is that all the reports that we had heard prior to today was that Ben Johnson was most likely going to become the Raiders' next head coach, which that I would have been fine with. I wouldn't have liked the whole idea of losing Ben Johnson, but at the same time, after what we saw in that game against the Commanders, I wouldn't have actually cried all that much either. I'd have been like, you know what? It's time for a move. It's time for a change. It's obvious Ben Johnson was not interested in being here long-term any longer because the way that he game planned, the way that he called that game against the Commanders, as I said in my previous episode, he was more interested about getting hired, about getting his money to become a head coach. I just thought that, with the fact that Tom Brady was calling that game against the Commanders and the fact that everybody and their brother was saying that Tom Brady was making a huge push for Ben Johnson, the Raiders were making a huge push for Ben Johnson, I was damn near certain that Ben Johnson was going to be donning the silver and black to become their new head coach. I almost was willing to buy that. But now, instead, we find out that Ben Johnson, the man that Dan Campbell gave every opportunity to be the type of coach that he now is, this NFL recognized guru that Jared Goff propelled from obscurity, he has now decided that rather than going to some other team to where, he can cut his teeth and he can do all that stuff away from our division, away from our team, rather he decides that he is going to go and become the Bears head coach. Like, dude, the only thing that would have been worse is if he were to have become the Packers head coach under some weird circumstances. Like, the Bears. You decide to go become the Bears head coach. You decide that you are going to take your offense and you are going to transplant it with Caleb Williams, with DeAndre Swift, with Romo Dunze, Keenan Allen, and, all the rest of them. You are literally only moving down, 100 miles? 150 miles to freaking Chicago? Like, dude, what a freaking traitor. Absolutely. I am disgusted. Ben Johnson owes everything to his name being what it is to the Detroit Lions, Dan Campbell, and to Jared Goff. If not for those 3 things right there, he'd be a nobody. He'd probably still be a position coach somewhere. And yet, what does he do? How does he show gratitude? How does he show his gratefulness to the Detroit Lions? He decides to say, you know what, thanks for building up my resume. Thanks for making me look like the best coaching candidate this cycle in the last couple of cycles. I'm now going to bed and go sleep with the enemy. You absolute traitor. Like I said, I'd have been fine if he'd gone to the Jaguars. I'd have been fine if he'd gone to the Raiders. I'd have been fine to any other mother-flippin' team, but not the Bears. And it's not because I'm upset that, now the Bears are all of a sudden going to be good. I don't believe that for a second. You want to know why I don't believe it for a second? Because here's the problem. The problem is that, okay, the Bears are going to hire Ben Johnson, but from all the other reports I've been hearing is that Ryan Poles did not want him. And you know what this tells me is that the Bears are still going to do what the Bears are still going to do. Rather than trying to find a head coach and a GM that, by the sounds of it, are wanting to work together, they're going to rather have an internal power struggle between Ryan Poles and between Ben Johnson. Because I'm telling you this right now, Ben Johnson, after being here in Detroit, he is going to expect things a certain way. He is going to want things a certain way. That's how Dan Campbell instills stuff in his coaches. He's like, listen, I want things a certain way, and I want people who are willing to work with me, so that way we have a shared vision. Well, when you have reports coming out from multiple outlets that are saying that, freaking Ryan Poles does not want freaking Ben Johnson and is actively steering away the hiring process away from him, the fact that the Bears are hiring Ben Johnson, you want to know what that tells me? That tells me that the Bears ownership overruled probably Ryan Poles and said, listen, we don't care what your thought process is. We probably don't care how uncomfortable you are with this. We're probably still going to hire him. Because they're looking for a guy to take Caleb Williams and turn him into a guru, turn him into the next big thing at quarterback. Well, here's the problem I have with that. You can get the offensive-minded coach all you want. Here's the problem. The biggest area that the Bears still do not have fixed, and they're probably not going to have fixed, is their offensive line. Their offensive line was so damn atrocious that their rookie quarterback was almost sacked 70 times this year. I don't care how brilliant Ben Johnson is, and I do acknowledge he is a brilliant play designer. I don't care how brilliant you are. You are not all of a sudden going to take 70 sacks and whittle it down to 20. It ain't going to happen. You can have all the playmakers you want. It ain't going to happen. So you know what? Here's exactly what I see happening. Ben Johnson, enjoy your time being in Chicago, my friend, but if there's one thing I've learned from Chicago, they run through coaches pretty damn fast. You want to know why? Because when they don't get what they're looking for, they will blame it on the coach. They're not going to blame it nearly as quickly on the players. Oh, they'll do that too. But now that you are there, you are going to become the prized possession and in the same breath, the sacrificial lamb. If all goes to literal shit, your name, your head will be on the platter. And here's the problem. Not only are you going and betting with the enemy, you are deciding that you're going to skip town and travel on down to Chicago. You are going to probably one of the most difficult inside divisions in the NFL. Think about it. The Packers were a playoff team this year. The Vikings were a playoff team this year. The Lions were a playoff team this year. And here's the bad part about this. You are going to a team that was 5-12 and lost some of the most embarrassing, most heart-wrenching losses I've ever seen. That's not going to instantly change overnight. You might get to mid-level next year if you're lucky. Because here's what's going to happen. You're going to have to spend at least 2 years instilling a culture there in a city that, mind you, is not used to having somebody brand new coming in and instilling a culture. Because let's understand something here. Who was the last successful head coach that the Bears had? That was Lovie Smith. It's been, 20-something years almost since that time? You're going to have to sell everybody that's in that building on you. Save maybe DeAndre Swift, because DeAndre Swift was actually here a couple of years ago, so he actually knows you. But everybody else, all they've got to know is your reputation. They don't know you personally. The Lions do, and I'm going to tell you this right now. You're in for a trouble fest. You want to know why? Because the Lions, They already know your offensive secrets. They already know your offensive mind. They're going to know how to plan for it. That stuff's not just going to walk out the door. You might walk out the door, but our knowledge and understanding of you sure as hell ain't. And here's the other thing. You can try to say that you're going to be able to figure out how to, counteract our offense and Jared Goff, but here's the thing. You are only half responsible for that offense that you built with Jared Goff. Jared Goff was the other half responsible, and by the way, Jared Goff was the one that was responsible running it on the field. You weren't. And let's put this out there for what it is. While Caleb Williams might be more athletic than Jared Goff, he's way more inaccurate. Freaking this year, all the wild, ridiculous throws that we saw out of Caleb Williams, unless you get that boy to understand the meaning of touch and precision, you ain't going to last long. So I'll say this, just in the spirit of football, congratulations in becoming a head coach. You did earn that. But you signed up for an absolute ass whooping in the same breath by becoming a traitor and deciding to join with the enemy. Because I'm telling you this right now. Now, us Lions fans, we definitely have both games circled up against the Bears next year. Because now we are going to want to make sure you lose in the worst way possible. Because I would have bid you bon voyage, I would have bid you all those good things if you'd have become a head coach anywhere else. But you decided of all the places you wanted to go, it had to be the Bears. Had to be the Bears. Because here's the thing, you could have said no to the Bears. You could have said, nope, I'm not interested. I want to go somewhere else. Because I know what will happen if I become the head coach here. I will have a big old bullseye painted on my back. But nope, you asked for it. Not only did you ask for it, but you agreed to it. So now, know what's coming. Your ass has got a big bullseye, and if there's one thing you ought to know about Detroit Lions, we hold long grudges. We remember. And by the way, our team is eons ahead of yours. And this offseason will continue that way. So I'm waiting in earnest for when we play you, Ben Johnson, because I know this for a fact. After how you disgraced us in the freaking Commanders game with all of those bullshit calls you made, the 3rd and 1 where you decided to have Goff try to throw the ball rather than run it after Jahmyr Gibbs had been gashing the Commanders, the freaking, fake end-around throw to J-Mo, that tells me you, as I said, had already sold on us. You had already made your decision. You were more interested in becoming a head coach. And that's why the game plan was as crap as it was. And that's even saying something of itself. The fact that it was such a crappy game plan and we still managed to put up 31 points, I now attribute that more to the strength of the players than to you. And you know what? That is something that us Lions fans, we are not going to forget. I guarantee you it. So congratulations, Ben Johnson. You have now become the first Lions assistant to become a head coach since Chuck Knox with the Seattle Seahawks. Congratulations. But now know this. You've got a big old bullseye on your back and we coming for you. Because now, understand what we said earlier. We're no longer the hunters. We're the hunted. Well, now we're hunting you as just a personal vendetta. So get ready, my friend. You have now called down the thunder. You have now called down ass-whooping Central. Because this is absolutely Benedict Arnold 101. You decide to go across the literal pond, Lake Michigan, to Chicago. You could have gone to any other team, but you decided Chicago. So congratulations. You're going to get both barrels. Congratulations, and looking forward to kicking your ass because now we get to play you twice a year. So you're going to get both ass cheeks kicked. Having said that, I'm going to end this episode and say thank you all for watching yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. If you like what you saw, by all means, highly encourage y'all to watch the next episode. Also encourage y'all to do one of these 3 things, like, comment, and subscribe. If by chance you subscribed in the past, hope y'all make sure you take time to do this. Hit that bell notification icon so that way you guys never miss any more content. Also encourage y'all to share the content. Also want to say whether it's your first time watching me or you've watched me so many times before, hope y'all got something out of it. Hope y'all learned something. Hope y'all continue to have something in your life that makes you happy, makes you smile. God bless, my friends. Until the next time we meet, I'll see you all in the next episode.